Jai Hind everyone. Today we are going to listen something very different. But at the same time, if the way the conflict domain is building up in India with its neighbors or in different parts of the world, I think this subject is going to be an eye opener if we can practice it as an organization. We might have been doing this in bits and pieces, but what Lt Pandey will be today highlighting will be something which we need to institutionally. We have to have the capability development for doing that and look at the nuances. And this is also a very, very dynamic and shifting subject based on the parameters or the tools or the technology or the kind of activities which are happening elsewhere. The things will change in the Indian context also. I have known Jan Pandey from I think staff college days, and then one has seen him in various appointments. He made a very big impact in Jammu and Kashmir as UC 15 core, changing the narratives. I think that is the time you would have fallen in love with this subject as I see, unless it was your tenure at ADG strategic communication. And of course, as Commandant Army War College, he has done a lot of pioneering work and research. So, without wasting much of time, I'll request Ashika to introduce the speaker, and then I'll request Lt Pandey to take the stage.
So I thought I was introduced already. After this speech, what else?
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Lieutenant General Devendra Pratap Pandey, PVSM, UYSM, AVSM, VSM, is an alumnus of the NDA and IMA and was commissioned to the 9th Battalion of the Sikh Light Infantry Regiment in 1985. During his 42.5 years of uniformed career, he was part of Operation Parakram and Operation Vijay in Jammu and Kashmir. He commanded a battalion at the world's highest battlefield, the Siachen Glacier, the Eastern Ladakh opposite the PLA, and the Rashtriya Rifle Sector in Kashmir. He has also commanded the Counterinsurgency Force Kilo in northern Kashmir and the famous Chena Corps post-abrogation of Article 370. He was deployed in Cambodia as a UN military observer and was the director of the Foreign Military Division of the Indian Army and the director of the Infantry Directorate. He was the ADG of Strategic Communication of the Indian Army and the first Director General of the Territorial Army. He has also been an instructor at the NDA. He has published numerous articles and papers on digital platforms and think tanks and has appeared in various podcasts. I now invite Lt Gen DP Pandey.
Wow, thank you. So firstly, thank you, sir, for getting me over. I think we had a chat about a month and a half back that what you do here, and therefore this offer came up, and it's always a pleasure to talk to, particularly the youth who are going to possibly who are the future of our country and who may take some element, some knowledge, and thereafter may be able to practice. So at the very outset, let me put this asset on table that I'm not an academic, right? I'm a practitioner, and I've been very fortunate that one was into appointments which are very independent, and I could strategize and thereafter implement phases and take a feedback, and thereafter continue to change the strategic facet which is quite to be implemented. One was very blessed, and the best part of our my talks generally come in question answer. So I will try and wrap up this talk as fast as possible and cover range, but it will not be about definitions and stuff like this. But it will be again in a form of narrative, a storytelling form. Possibly that is the way which one has tried to influence people who I have been working with or working around with. The most important narrative is told to oneself, right? So what the brain tells heart and the heart tells brain is the most important part of communication which takes place. And thereafter, every introduction to this communication When the brain takes lead, the heart listens differently, and the heart takes lead, the brain. So the narration is instinct which is going within your self. And that is the most interesting narration. And I think we all understand. We tell stories. Eventually, what happens is when you tell the story number of times, it may be a lie. But how you tell, emotionally engaged, it starts becoming a truth. A number of people must have told you a concept of manifestation. When you tell a flawed story number of times, it also starts believing, the universe starts believing and conspires to make it true. So that is the beauty of narration. The topic which was given is Battle of Narratives, the new form of warfare. It is a very misleading topic. I didn't want to change it because I want to start with this heading itself. Is this a new form of warfare? When I just said that the narration or narrative starts within yourself. When you have to step outside of a cave as a caveman and you want to convince yourself that outside the dark is not fearsome, you actually narrate yourself that don't worry, nothing will happen. Let's step out. It starts from that point of time. In our part of the world, narratives have been practiced for a long, long time. I'll just simply state truth, myth, story, Rama, the perfect human being, the perfect social person, a great husband, a great child who believes, who listens, complies with his father's or mother's directions. He is a perfect king. It's a story which has been told at least once in a year during the Shara, when it comes out a win of a good over evil. And it comes so often that best of the scientists will also pray to Lord Rama to achieve great deeds so that they can win over the evil, which is in terms of virus or something like that. In our country, people who fly, when you walk into the NASA control room, you'll find them wearing those kabutis and all, and thereafter they enter and they function onto the ultimate part of science. So look at the contradiction. They are believing in good deed. And so that's why I say that Rama is an iconic form of narration which goes on in part of our world or times which we just don't know since when. And therefore, the people who really understand the power of narration or narrative is unfortunately not the professionals who are working paid for government servants. I use this word in a very sarcastic manner because we who are in uniform, anybody who's in the service of government is somebody who's only looking to clock the meter towards pension or the next day. And therefore, we are not true to our profession, but we are true to our career and paychecks. The best of this is known and understood by people who fight for power and money and want to survive. Who are these three people? They are the businessmen, the corporates. They understand the meaning of narrative and the form of warfare of narrative. They evolve change. The politicians, as you said, they are the past masters of using this thing, and I'll give examples of this eventually. And then the religious leaders. You imagine that in today's world, you'll find a frail-looking old woman politician. She understands the value of narration of Ram. So she will also go onto a stage, hold a flimsy, colorful bow, and then try and draw that arrow, which will just fall right in front because she doesn't even know. It is symbolism of good over evil. So the politician also understands and celebrates narrative. In 375, 280 BCE, nearly about 2,400 years back, our very own Chanakya in Arthashastra elucidates and says, an arrow shot by an archer may or may not kill a single person, but skillful intrigue devised by a wise man may kill even those who are in the womb. When a narrative is sold to a woman who's pregnant in an unmarried status, right or wrong, she may go for an abortion. And then the narrative which is sold it is right, it is her independent choice, or she should not, is the fulcrum on which, imagine, the most modern state of the world today fights this election on. The choice and no choice, abortion or no abortion. That's the power of narration and narrative, right? And number of women will take the choice to go for abortion only because they have been sold the choice, that freedom, it's my choice, and therefore not wanting yet they may take the call. That's the power of narration. And you imagine, he believes, and this is what I really believe as a military professional, that if the end could be achieved by non-military methods, and when you say non-military methods, they are diplomacy, informational, economy, right? And in all three realms, even military, narratives makes a very, very important. I have engaged, I have given you a debt, or I have given you a line of credit, and therefore the countries start changing or behaving differently with each other. Look at the diplomacy of vaccine, right? Just when we were critical, a portion of very, very valuable vaccine was sent across. It became a form of diplomatic engagement to change behavior of people, communities, world, and behavior against our country. So therefore, narratives are very, very important. And it's not very easy to follow, understand by people who are in uniform, because we believe in destructive power to win a battle. But the most valuable, with a fraction of budgets, by no means I'm saying that you don't require the uniform force. You require that kinetic force, because that is also a narrative. It's a very important part of narrative. Mess with me, this man is going to be unleashed upon. Right? So therefore, in that dying, in narration, in narrative, military becomes also a very important part, but possibly to be unleashed only when nothing else is possible. Even Sun Tzu, 500-600 years before this, gentleman called Chanakya has articulated in his book Art of War, and he states the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. How do you do it? Cutting off of economic aid is also sending a narration, a message. We control your destiny. When Genghis Khan used to come, he used to burn, pillage, kill, butcher. Many in the villages or the towns which he conquered. So that the next one, he should say, if you are with me, I will not plunder, loot, rape, kill. I only need money and I need your subservience. It is a form of narration. And therefore, there were wise men and counsel who used to say, okay, we'll not go for war. We surrender. We'll give you part of booty. And that is how expansion took place. Now, narration always requires certain action on the ground. You just can't keep on piping a story. The story of Rama, the story of Shiva, the story of Prophet Muhammad, the story of Christianity will fall flat if you don't have symbols on the ground in terms of books, in terms of gospels, in terms of miracles, in terms of some temples which have got dates back, which date back to. So you can make pipe dreams, you can make stories which are impossible stories, but you need to have fragment of truths when you're narrating stories. And that's what narratives are. And therefore, I just want to again make a statement. This statement is given by the Prime Minister, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. A word, two words. It is loaded with narrations that our country is benign, helpful, assistance. We don't want to carry out warfare, destruction. We don't want to be competitive. Everything which is available with us is yours, and what is yours is ours. We should help each other. These are diplomatic messaging. These are economic messaging. These are also messages of non-utilization of military force to achieve ends. This is a narration. These are stories. Words matter. So, you may have story. You may be having syllables or words which are being sent across. The only problem which is there in our part of the world, because we, especially in the military, we grow up from our day one of a service or a training to see physical destruction as a form of domination. And therefore, we want to see something which is visible, cognitive. And therefore, this facet of non-cognitive, which is playing with the mind, is very difficult for us to adapt. And as the DG was trying to bring out, that maybe as ADG PI or ADG Stratcom, when I was heading the strategic communication division, I became fond of the subject. Is it on, sir? I somehow joined a regiment called Sikh Light Infantry, where all Khalsas were there, right? And their basic form of narration, I started to learn that if you need to tell this soldier to die for you without question, I must send a narration to him of just a balance. So if you're going to occupy and go to the worst battlefield called Siachen Glacier, right? And I need to lure my soldier to follow me on to that glacier to serve at a place called, Bana or Indrakol or in Tiger LP, which are about 19 to 20,000. I must weave a story in his mind that what is he doing is very, very important for nation, for brotherhood, for band of brothers, and more importantly, maybe for me as a leader of the battalion. And that is the way we start learning, practicing this art of narration. And therefore, can you narrate these stories to walls or mountains or hills or jungles? You need to narrate the story to people. And narration is all about shaping the mind, winning over, defeating people without actually contesting or fighting them in any manner. And it has. It can happen in about 300 years or 400 years back or 200 years back, over a period of time, when the British introduced a system to defeat us, and I don't want to quote Macaulay here, by changing our education system. For 200 years, we have been told that you black people, brown people, you are dirty. You have no culture, you got no history. There's nothing which is yours, which is good. Me, the white, fair. And look at the drive that even the morning when I have to get ready, I need to apply maybe a cream, which I don't watch. The pull and pressure which has made us to look and behave and leave our own very, genetic stuff which we have to follow the West has been introduced, and we are not yet 8 decades have passed, but we are unable to break the leash of the colonial mindset. Fort William was changed to some other name yesterday. There's an article which has come about that the veterans of Indian armed forces are unhappy with this change. When it was named Fort William, there's no angst. Angrezi naam kitna acha lagta hai. But when you call Latika, when you call Pushpa, when you call Durga, or when you call somebody Vishal, it doesn't look hot enough. So therefore you start following names, which has been now, our minds have been shaped to follow what is the white man's world, to live and dress in grace, right? And the implications, a place like Japan, I was visiting, that entire society which used to be colorful, their original dress are so beautiful dresses. The children are following everything which the Americans in the West were doing. And there's a concern about the leadership. They're worried about it because the girls and the boys want to only dress up in grays, black, dark black, because it allows them to look slimmer, fitter, nicer, contrasting. They are aping. So look at this story in the narration of the West, that democracy is best, their form of democracy is the best, their form of pursuit of happiness is the best, and we all are living our own peculiar way of living and trying to ape this to us. So this is the effect of narration. I will just talk of a couple of things, religion. This is the opium of masses, we all know. Right? The opium is, in this case, is it given in substance or is it given in form of narratives? Is in form of narratives, right? Is the most possibly deadliest form. of narration. You know, political ways are still not so deadly. The religious form is the most dangerous because it needs expansion. It needs more expansion of power. This thing, it allows you. Imagine there are ashrams, or what do you call it? Ram Rahim and all. What is it called?
Yes.
Deras. You know, these deras, they talk of good stuff time and again, and they're the smartest guys. They know exactly which side of the population to hit at. So while Punjab follows two simple broad religions called Hinduism and Sikhism, so-called Sikhism, you know, it's a way of path. The fact of the matter is that they come in between to decide to tell the poor those stories which resonate with them to control, but those stories are told time and again. And this gentleman will come, these Dera chiefs and all will come and sit and talk of some positive messaging time and again to wean away that population which is either following one religion or other, to yet come in between, and they have the followership, in which when you put a man who's been seen to be a rapist, right, in a jail, there is a upsurge, and there are political parties trying to move one or another to win votes in the critical states or part. So that's the power of religion. That's the power of spiritualism, is in terms of narratives. I will talk about other part, you know, but imagine the religious leaders outdo each other to sell an afterlife. How many of you have actually seen heaven or earth or believe that you like to? These stories are being sold. Look at the power of narration. And that is what narratives are. There's a competition of narratives which have not taken the digital platform, right? The warfare of battle of narrative is not gone to digital, and I'll talk about it again later. The second is about political messaging. You know, we know communism, we know socialism, we know capitalism. Each one is selling their respective form of messaging that mine is the best. And unfortunately, people even believing that neither of them is best for them. It is only best for the people who are selling that message. Rest of the people in capitalism are going to be exploited, and in socialism or communism are going to be exploited. But each have a different, unique subset of selling that narrative to win and control large number of population. But then they also go to kill. Bangladesh, the recent lynching and killings are a belief mechanism which has come about from a section, right, which believes that Awami League has led the right for last 3 or 4 election campaigns, right? You imagine the country which fought for its independence is going against this basic ethos or creation back to the roots in terms of to follow the hardcore stuff of religion and all these killings. The Awami League, Muslim people have been killed for political purposes, and the Hindus are getting killed or lynched or isolated or thrown out of the jobs because they would have supported Awami League, because India led into the creation, and of course, religion matters, right? So this religion and politics can lead into a lot of killing which can happen. Words matter. In you know, these people are so smart. Angrezo Bharat Chodo. It resonates. Quit India resonates. Swadeshi movement. People burn clothes all over the place. People burn the clothes which are weaved by themselves just to be part of the process, right? Before independence. Shaping of mind. This narration, narratives. Aapda Sarkar. I hope everybody is heard. Prime Minister saying Aapda Sarkar. Aapka Sevak. Garibi Hatao, Harit Kran. These are all, each political party will come with their unique wordings, and thereafter they will weave stories about the same thing. And all of them are part of the same. You know, they will always have in the lunch break in the parliament, they'll all sit together and eat and drink and be merry. But when they go out to the population, control the population, they have sets, unique sets of narration which goes out to control people. Secularism, double engine ki sarkar. You know, ab ki baar Modi sarkar. And it also falls negative. If you're not smart. So BJP went for on a narration Ab ki baar 400 par. So they were, it is if exuding of confidence. Oh, we are going to come, we are going to come. And therefore, they were thinking that will lead to more votes. But what happened? Polarization happened. The people who didn't like them much, they came in numbers, they surely voted to keep them out of power. But their own followers who believed in the narration, they said, "वो तो आ ही रहे, सब दे रहे, मैंने क्यों जाना?" And therefore, most of them didn't come to vote. And look at the consequence, what happened. So while narration is very important, but you have to be very smart. How much, how far, where, what makes all the difference. The word by itself, I'll just take, when you say Chinese, what does it mean? Chinese means poor product, fail, may not sell. At the level of the national engagement, Chinese means debt grip, the death grip of the debt, a credit grip, everything. But in the psyche of military parlance, the Chinese comes out to be a 8 feet tall soldier because of our 1962 war and the stories and stuff, which I'll talk about later. What does word Pakistani mean in the Gulf? It means a cuss word. So Pakistani will not like to introduce himself Pakistani. He will call, I'm a Nepali or a Bangladeshi, Indian or this, because it's a curse word. Words, narration has gone about over a period of time, not by only our country, by the world, that the terrorists, the worst form of corrupt people, the beggars on the streets in Makkah, Medina come from, in plain road from Pakistan. So they look similar, they are subcontinental people, but they are branded differently. Narration, it's all about power of selling stories. They have sold stories about themselves, and the world has sold stories about themselves as a narration form of. When I tell you in UK, what does Pakistani mean? Groomers. Grooming gangs. It was not known till 5 years back. It was all buried. But again, this word of grooming. So in everybody knows the grooming gang kya hota hai? Don't know. So you must tell that, right? Bangladeshi, what? Illegal migrants taking out of our jobs, converting slums, bad people, crime. Not that rest of the country is absolutely, very, very good. We look after our women. We don't pickpocket. We all do everything. But Bangladeshi word has become an anathema because of political utilization or this way or that way. Right? So just words matter. Narratives matter and they have consequences. Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are. So the current last 2 decades narration has shifted the focus from the people who actually started terrorism. All other religion perpetuated terrorism much, much before the Islam actually started practicing terrorism. They were radical, but truly they were not terrorists. But that 9/11 changed the entire game altogether. There were attacks happening, but you go back to history of terrorism. Christians, every other denomination was involved into. They were state-sponsored, they were non-state-sponsored. They were communist had terrorists, socialist as terrorists. Everybody who's trying to force the will of the people to behave otherwise by physical application of force is not radical. He transcends into a realm of terrorist, right? So look at the words matter. Businesses and corporates are best practitioners. I just very, very briefly talk of, everybody has heard the story about Tata Namak, IOD Namak. They started by telling the government of India that the Northeast people have less iodine and therefore we need to. But then when the message started resonating, but there was a business strategy behind. Business strategy was they had a chemical plant somewhere in Gujarat. There should be a lot of chemical which should come out of it, with the salt, and they wanted to put that salt out somewhere. They're spending a lot of money to dispose the salt into the sea. And therefore somebody suggested, yeah, why should we not use this in part of salt? make salt cells. But India was using raw salt, which is to come from the sea, which is the cheapest, 5 times lesser. And that is how firstly Tata salt came about, the chemical salt, which everybody has said that chemical salt is good, not good for the health, but we all consume chemical salt. And somewhere in between they talked of iodine because iodine, yeah. And now everybody resonates. Tata, namak, mein iodine. And therefore it is good for health. We Indians, rest of the country, except for the northeast, does not require iodine. We get naturally iodine. More iodine is not good for health, right? It adds to other facets. I'm not going to debate, but I'm just saying, everybody of our generation, when you say cleaning powder, washing powder, we used to call Surf. Surf is a brand. There are a large number of other the same, but sale of brand, narration of brand, the woman when she cleans that thing and it comes out so nice and she's talking about it, they spend crores and crores, a significant amount of budget into advertisements to propagate this. It is what narration. It is a warfare of narratives. So smaller brands can't fight, right? And they occupy the entire street. I will not get into more other stuff, but let me just keep on giving some recent examples of battle of narratives. Everybody has heard of Al-Qaeda, you know? Which is the territory Al-Qaeda occupies? Occupy, physical, structure, president, prime minister, military, force. None. It continues to resonate with a segment of population which people who sit in this hall can't imagine. People who are empowered, enabled, rich, upper middle class, or even lower middle class and above. You can't just understand the power of Al-Qaeda's ideology and selling of that. They're the fastest of block. I've just one of my articles is just got released, or yeah, it was on the Twitter. I just put it on Twitter also on this Al-Qaeda. This was my paper which I wrote, taking Al-Qaeda as an example. How many of you know about ISIS, terrain and physical domination? They had in Raqqa. Raqqa was for a period of time. They got defeated on the bordering of what you call Iraq and Syria. They were controlling a piece of territory controlled by a guy called Baghdadi, if I'm not wrong. And Madhu Baghdadi. You know, right? Now, narrative on YouTube, on Telegram, on Insta, on personal messaging services, on using all modern system of algorithms, right? To find out person who's vulnerable and influence can be influenced. They ensured that from the developed world, men, women, girls in school, 14, 15, women in the age bracket of 40 to 50, highly empowered, living in the democratic world. They have crossed countries, infiltrated on the foot to be the warriors in Al-Raqqa. And oh, by the way, not only that, after having been used as slaves, men were used as slaves. Not everybody was a fighter. If you're an Indian or a Pakistani, you know, you are treated as a lower class guys who are made to do, you know, labor job, safai, ye sab kaam aate the aapse. And they used to be also used as sex slaves. They continue to believe in the cause. They have got children of those people, and like there's a case, a famous case of this British girl who wants to go back to UK, and she's unrepentant. She believes in the ideology which is perpetuated in form of narrative, in the manner which it was. You imagine this modern world. There's a guy who's coming out and selling story and running a government without being acknowledged anywhere. That's a part of that. You can tell somebody to kill yourself is the power of narrative. Imagine, it is not, don't ever think we are dismissive. Sir, वो अनपढ़ गवार है, वो मदरसे का पढ़ा हुआ है, वो तो अनपढ़ लिखा है. But what about graduates, tech graduates, M-Tech, B-Tech, who are running the show? All those people who got killed in 9/11, who flew in those aircraft, were not people from poor class. They were all empowered, highly educated. They have served, lived in America, who have done all that. That's the power of ISI's area has been reducing and expanding. Jolani today, the head of the HTS, suddenly has shifted from his dress and the beard to a clean-shaven avatar with a tie, with a 10 million bounty. He's now being engaged by the West world as a new leader. You understand? Narrative. Even dressing, talking, speaking, behaving, shifting is all about narration. I hope you understand the power of narrative. Hamas-Israel conflict. How many of you recall the 7th October and thereafter the videos which came out of that girl sitting on the back of a pickup truck line with blood all over her body, around the private parts, lying in a limp position above a couple of bodies, and going through the Palestinian roads, and the masses coming out, touching, hitting, throwing stones, wanting to lynch. How many of you remember this? But how many of you not remember? You imagine the shift of battle of narrative that Israelis lost the battle of narrative, that International Court of Justice last year, somewhere in June or July, came up with an advisory. It was not a direction, but an advisory to declare the entire offensive as illegal and occupation as illegal. What was the intention of the Palestinians by this attack? To get a very heavy retribution from the Israeli side, which will lead into destruction, and therefore will have two vessels. One is defeat, destroy, or the deal which was ongoing. The Gulf countries are now engaging with Israel, and the Palestinian cause was getting into the burner. Firstly, to kill it, and the second was to put back the Palestinian cause right into the center of the world. Have they achieved? Yes. The ceasefire has been on. Has the Israelis achieved with using the kinetic force? Nothing much has been achieved. They have not been able to destroy Hamas. What they killed has come back and rejuvenated, and they are back into the numbers. In fact, on the day of ceasefire, look at the battle of narrative. These guys are so smart. The terrorists are the smartest. They have driven out in hundreds of brand new vehicles with flashy brand new flags of the Palestinian Hamas. Have you seen all that? If you're not seen, you need to see. They are the past masters of manipulation of mind, not only of the world, but more importantly about their own people. They were killing their own people to control the aid which was coming, all being recorded. But do you think that Hamas is hated in the country? I don't think so. That's a part of this thing. I just wanted to shift to mind it. Is it a new form of warfare? Ongoing. Ukraine-Russian conflict. Beautiful case study. The narrative from the West starts from 2014 when Russia invaded first time Ukraine and Ukraine thereafter. Nobody talks of 20 years back or 2.5 years back, 2.5 decades back, when they gave a commitment that NATO expansion. The narrative is controlled through a communication platforms. Who controls the communication platform? The West. They pay, they invest in the technology, they invest in the platform, and therefore the world narration is changed, the mind is changed. People have actually forgotten why Russia had to come across, right? Well, the conflict started only about 2 years or 3 years back, but they talk of the line of 2014. That is where narrative management. Patience and persistence in the battle of narratives is an important part. Who are the past masters besides the terrorists? The past masters, the Chinese. They have the patience, they have got the persistence. 2 steps back, forward, a step back. Look at our case, Islamic slicing. These are words which are put into practice form So we Indians, we don't have patience. जल्दी करो जल्दी करो जल्दी करो कोई बात नहीं ठीक हो गया अभी हो गया चलो ठीक है एक कदम तो वापस चले गए there's a stability peace we will talk about it later where the line was in 1954 and where the line today is there's a transition and change while political gameplay may continue but the hard truth is the Chinese in last so many years have been able to establish physical control on swaths of properties on land which is ours. We have forgotten about Aksai Chin. We don't even talk. Right now, our political opposition parties are talking of those inches, right? Or maybe few meters here and there where things have been resolved. But everybody has forgotten. And that is what they practice at. They master, they pay our own people from within who are writing about it, who are not writing about Aksai Chin, who are not writing about the past follies. Our own people, they don't. They pay our own people, they have the patience, and they invest money, and we are the ones who will start believing the falsehood. And thereafter reconcile over period of koi baat na chalayo jaan do, is pe hi kar lete hain. What is this territory? This territory is no good. Let it go. You go to Bombay, Bangalore, in the coffee shop with the youth and the young people, they don't care. That's the form of narrative. The Chinese care. We Indians don't care about our territories lost. Right? So that's the thing of patience and persistence. The Pakistanis have been telling the story of aggressors. I'll give yesterday, I don't know if how many of you watched 2 days back or yesterday, the Pakistani so-called Prime Minister of UK has come out onto this thing that we'll go to unleash the war of terrorism on India because of nothing much is moving forward and we not allow the status quo to continue. That's a summary of it. The Pakistanis, when they do everything, their entire diplomatic community across the world will keep on repeating, parroting the same line. And they will get the diplomatic community and the economic community, everybody who's coming at home, and again preach them and tell them what wrong is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. Human rights violation. So much so that our own children, our own young men and women start believing in human rights violation and they don't talk of what's happening and what the truth is. That is the level of persistence, selling the stories time and again in appropriate manner. Bangladesh war, the story of 93,000 plus prisoners of war. You know, do you think any Pakistani believes it? That there were 93,000 prisoners since 71? None. In Pakistan, they don't believe it. It is only we who believe, and that too about the senior rank people or senior aged people who know of it. The younger generation, after some time, will start believing the story of Pakistan, that actually Pakistan won. Right? The narration which has been believed in Bangladesh, that Bangladesh was created by Bangladeshis. The persistent patient of covering up of the rape, brutality, butchery of the Mukti Wahani and the common people have been put behind in the psyche of Bangladesh, where actually the opium of religion has taken shape first, and our narrative of illegal migrants, the Bangladeshi quote unquote, the way we is like a curse word, has ensured polarization. So a narrative here in India can have a different consequences in Bangladesh. So the people who should have been with us, because of our misuse of terminology in a very derogatory manner, has ensured that a new nation, which was actually created by us by a lot of sacrifice and everything, on their desires, has continued to go against us. Importance of narratives, right? Ultimate narratives. Ultimate narratives tell you 2-3 sad stories. What is the impact of narrative? I have got hundreds, I'll say I've got 7-10 years in Kashmir. And I'm extremely fond of Kashmiri people. Because I find it's quite shocking. So intelligent people, their mind can be shaped differently. PWT government employee with a wife, with a sister and 2 daughters is okay with the terrorist coming and sleeping and Not only he, but he has made his teenage daughters, his wife and sister to believe that ये जो जिहाद कर रहे हैं, हमारे लिए लड़ रहे हैं, हम हथियार नहीं उठा सकते, but at least we can look after their physical needs in terms of shelter, food, and bodily warmth. It's okay. Is that the ultimate form of narrative, which is a routine? There are people wherever the sector under, there are women who are born child of terrorists out of wedlock. In that kind of a society, which is so religiously structured, is an accepted norm, and the children are growing. That's the selling of narrative of azadi, of religion, of ultimate way to contribute towards that cause. There's a place called Birwa, Bagam. A guy, OGW, overground worker, is killed by a terrorist by only for one reason, because he was sleeping with his, but he was okay with it. But then there's a young girl, 12, 13 years old, and he wanted to not sleep with this. He had enough of the old egg. And this chap resisted. He's shot. Nobody picks up the body in the village because he has now shaped the mind that ye Fauj ka, security forces ka, Kufiya informer. Untrue story. Even if it is true, but you can't kill a man because he denied an opportunity to touch a female. But the narrative becomes too controlling. How this narrative was controlled? 30 years back, 35 years back, 40 years back, in Friday namaz, Jummah ki namaz, all over Jammu and Kashmir, particularly in Kashmir, there has to be a slip of page which to be passed around, controlled by Jamaat Islami, has to be sent to all. That script used to be read by the Maulvi and the protester. When the moderation took place, it went in the form of mobile messages. One common message in the entire thing is repeated time and again, time and again, time and again. So narrative is not only once told story. It needs to be told. So my message to you is, narratives are like seeds. Thousands have to be thrown. That means 1,000 stories have to be told. And thereafter it has to be nurtured. All will not take root. Some will. Thereafter it continues to be nurtured time and again to allow it to grow to a huge tree. Therefore, the people for whom it was put will come to protect that narrative eventually. That's the requirement, patience of management of narrative. यहाँ पे मैंने कहानी बता दी और चला गया. It's not narrative. Narrative needs to be told time and again, reinforced. A very classy style. Again, institutions are required to check all this. In Kashmir, and these are, I'm not talking of off the hat, I'm talking of women having told me these stories of rapes and stuff like that. I have met enough number of women who had children. Because maybe I was a people person, and therefore the girls and boys and children and men used to come out and speak on a platform, public platform in my own auditorium where men and women are sitting. Right? There's a story being told by a stone pelter who says that, sir, humko to prate Subhash Chandra Bose ke bare mein, or now I'm feeling very nice. The teachers are talking about, if I come and attend, Kashmiri guy, teacher teaching his children, Subhash Chandra Bose, Bharat ke Mahan, Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, Mahatma Gandhi. You'll feel nice, you're talking of icons. But when you leave or when you're not there, no, you can't be there every time. You close the argument, class. Kashmir ke liye tumko sab ye banna padega. Great story, and turn of the twist with one line. That is how a smart narration took place in entire valley to talk about Azadi, different and everything for a period of time. So look at this, class act. I just will talk a few in Indian context. Indian Army lost in 1962. That's the story. India lost in 1962. Should that be a story? The loss was not by Indian Army. It was the loss at the strategic and political leadership. Indian Army, wherever it stood, we won, we pushed back, we fought back. Right? Now, how many stories have you seen about 1962? Or thereafter of war movies? हमारी war movies के अंदर रोना, चिट्ठी आती है, खत आते हैं, वो मर गया, वो कटाया, मैं चिट्ठी नहीं आया, मैं रोती रही, वो खड़ा रहा. You know, you only hear. How many Western movies you see of Rona Dhona Gana? Negative. And I have spoken to top music lyricists, producers who write. So now they have started coming out with some sort of a aggression. You got movie like Fateh, or you know, these very, very offensive, aggressive, westernized kind of a movie. But हमारी गान 3 घंटे के पिक्चर में लड़ाई 1 घंटे की होगी, आधे घंटे की होगी. उसमें वो बंदा रो रहा है, ठीक है, वो गिरता पड़ता जा रहा है और औरतें रो रही हैं सब जगह पर एंड कहाड़े मार रहे हैं. We will continue to defeat ourselves when our narration is going to be of defeatist, of, you know, only family oriented. War fighting is brutal. It requires a, you know, different narration. But unfortunately, that is how our narration is. Narrations of age-old divisions. While political parties use it, but our Western guys are far more smarter to use our division in our country, our caste divisions. The guy has never been here, but you go to America, everybody knows about Indian caste system. Last 8 decades, we have not been able to take it off. Snake charmers. It continues to resonate in spite of our progress in terms of space, technology, people who are going to work, everything. The guys truly who are dirty, who don't even wipe their backside after tapping are the West. But they will always tell us that how dirty Indians are. There's a context. There's a challenge. We are a poor country. It'll take us time to come up to the kind of work, think this, but they will not talk that their entire infrastructure is actually built on taking out resources and keeping us poor. You understand that whole thing? So if we have the similar stuff in the thing, who is going to go to that West to work as they were? But this stuff is not understood by us. This age-old issue. Have you understood the power of narration in time? Hindenburg, twice, he's a short seller. Everybody knows that he's a badass, money-making, money-making, profiting idiot. But this group, the reports comes out at exactly the time, a week or 10 days before a election, which is very critical, is taking place. It is two messaging. One is this joker when our shares cross, you know, the stocks crash, he buys it and he makes money. There's one part. The second is the deep state is in the West is telling political dispensation, be with us, behave with us, allow us. You know, it's again a messaging. So narratives are all about messaging in time. I've finished, I think, time? Yeah. Okay, I'll just quickly wrap up. The digital stage is a very great place for narratives. I'll just give you quick figures. In 2024, 821 million internet users in India. 462 are active social media accounts. You can shape one, they're saying WhatsApp. I get same content from 20 different people who want me to keep me informed. कि आज मोदी ने क्या बोला या केजरीवाल ने क्या बोला, आज चाइना ने हमारे खिलाफ में क्या कर दिया, आज पाकिस्तान में क्या हो रहा है. My WhatsApp, my Insta, my this thing is flooded with people who want to keep me informed. Not only me, I'm sure you all are part of it. Indian flag or Indian national anthem has won the UN Best National Anthem. I also want to believe it. First 2 years, I also believed it. I was 58 years old, 57 years old. And then something kicks in your mind. No, no, yeah. No. But you imagine the large population, right? You imagine the power of how many social media influencers are. Can you guess how many are there in our country? 3.5 million influencers with followership of at least 10 to 20,000 and beyond in various platforms. There are people who say 73 million. I will not like to believe, but 2.5, 3.5 is good enough. In Indian streets, remote villages, I go to my colony, ayahs, mates, security staff, everybody is like this, watching YouTube. A great form. The warfare is not new form. It has been ongoing. Minds are being shaped, and the algorithm allows you to. Who wants to see what content? My content will come if I'm anti-BJP. My content of anti-BJP will come to me to reinforce my mind. Okay, and pro-BJP will go to pro-BJP, and then they will find out ye beech wala kaun hai, and then the war will start for that beech wala. It is a very, very important fight to defeat, to subdue populations, not only of the enemy, but the friendly countries, partners, and most importantly, your own, right? You may win the war, but you will lose it if your own people are not with you. In Kargil, who won the war? We won. Who won the social media narrative? We also won them. Actually, when you look at from my, as a military professional of this thing, I don't think we won the war. Why? It was our space. It was our territory. We threw the Pakistani out from our territory. Is it a win or lose? And we lost 500 plus soldiers, officers, men, thousands injured. And our intelligence community, strategic community took a beating for a long time. That we were surprised by the. Who won? Pakistanis won. Kashmir at that point was dead. It came back right in the center of. While we may argue on the left, but you look at how the narratives can be sold. While we continue to believe, but a person like me who is possibly more discerning, who wants to look at a distance, a broader picture, I will always like to believe that we lost. We may have thrown back the enemy, but success is when you capture territory, when you occupy mind state. Strategic level, yes, we won. Because India came out to be a very, very responsible nation. Okay. A very wonderful article on Small Wars Journal streamed as a strategic tool. Kargil conflict, I wrote, got published in the US. Why I'm saying US is again a narrative I want to tell you. I wanted to end by this. Affirmation, recognition from the West is the best way of recognition. अगर मैं आपको ये बोलूं कि मेरा ये आर्टिकल CENJOWS में पब्लिश हुआ था, ठीक है, but whenever I'll tell him it was published by the Americans. Oh, इसका मतलब अच्छा है, you know? You understand? Same article published in Navbharat Times. You will not even use the toilet paper. But if I say that the BBC or the Reuters have published in one small little clip as a blurb, you'll be very happy to announce to the world. That is battle of narrative. Believe. We don't believe in ourselves, we believe in something else. That's our loss. I will take about rest of the question and talk about it. Things are left, the questions come.